It only took one sentence, spoken softly by a stranger, to change Elon Musk's world forever. The air in Boulder, Colorado, was sharp, filled with the scent of fresh pine and distant snow. Elon stood outside the doors of a nondescript community center, a stark contrast to the sleek, bustling offices he typically inhabited. He was here, far from his comfort zone, for reasons he couldn't yet articulate. Inside, voices echoed faintly. Volunteers moved swiftly, transforming the worn-down hall into a welcoming space. Elon stepped quietly into the room, unnoticed and anonymous, a rare luxury. He wore simple jeans and a hoodie, blending effortlessly with the casual workers around him. His assistant, Emma, had reluctantly stayed behind. Just an hour, he'd promised her, but now, wandering deeper into the hall, Elon found himself intrigued by the energy, the simplicity of purpose that hummed in every action around him. Among the volunteers, one man caught his attention. Early 40s, salt and pepper hair, worn flannel shirt rolled up at the sleeves, working silently and efficiently. He radiated calmness, a quiet strength evident in the careful precision with which he arranged chairs, set tables, and checked the placement of welcome signs. Without thinking, Elon approached him. "You seem like you run this place," he said, half smiling. The man looked up, mildly surprised but welcoming. "Hardly," he laughed gently. "I'm just doing my part. We all are. What's all this for?" Elon gestured around. The man straightened up, wiping his hands on his jeans, eyes thoughtful. "It's for second chances," he said. "For those who never thought they'd get another one." Elon tilted his head, curiosity piqued. "You must have a reason to be here." The volunteer paused, his gaze softening as if recalling a deeply personal memory. "My sister passed away 3 years ago," he finally shared, voice low but steady. "She spent her life waiting for someone to offer her kindness without conditions. She never found it. So, I promised myself that I'd become what she never had, a chance given without expectation." Elon felt something shift inside him, a sudden quieting of the endless noise, the metrics, the relentless demands of innovation. "That's powerful," he said quietly. "We underestimate how much people need kindness," the man continued. "Real kindness. Quiet kindness." Before Elon could respond, someone called out to the man. "James, we need you in the kitchen." James turned, nodding quickly to Elon with genuine warmth. "Glad you stopped by," he said sincerely, before disappearing into the crowd. Elon stood alone for a moment, absorbing the impact of James' words. Back at his Boulder office, Emma was pacing anxiously when he returned, visibly relieved at his arrival. "Did you find what you were looking for?" she asked. "Yes," Elon replied thoughtfully, "but I didn't realize I was looking for it." That night, Elon found himself restless, the volunteer's words echoing persistently. In the silent solitude of his study, he scribbled a single note. "People need kindness, quietly given." He sat staring at those words for hours, feeling their profound simplicity settle deep within his chest. The next morning, he made a call. "Emma, find out everything you can about the volunteer event yesterday, specifically about a man named James who lost his sister," he instructed. Of course, Emma responded without hesitation. "May I ask why?" Elon's voice was firm, filled with resolve and quiet excitement. "Because I've been building machines to change the world," but he reminded me that it's people who actually do. He ended the call, breathing out slowly, knowing his life was about to change because of one simple sentence. He didn't yet understand how deeply it would ripple through his world, altering not just his path, but countless others. But he knew it was a beginning, and sometimes, a quiet sentence was enough to spark an unstoppable wave of change. James didn't know that his words had landed deeply within Elon, stirring something long dormant. The next few days saw Elon consumed with a kind of quiet obsession, an unusual state for someone whose life was constantly marked by high-profile meetings, breakthrough announcements, and endless innovation. Emma, his ever-efficient assistant, quickly returned with the details Elon requested. James Foster, 42, lived a modest life in a small neighborhood on the outskirts of Boulder. He worked 2 jobs, a warehouse manager by day and volunteering at the community center nearly every evening. James had become an unofficial leader, respected for his humility and unwavering dedication. "Emma," Elon asked thoughtfully, "what's the situation at the community center? Are they funded well enough?" She glanced through the file again, shaking her head slightly. "They're struggling, mostly surviving on donations and the goodwill of the community." Elon leaned back, his eyes distant, contemplating. "Quietly set up a fund. No publicity. No big announcements. Just ensure they have everything they need." "And Emma?" "Yes. Make sure James never knows it was me." Emma nodded, understanding immediately. "Consider it done." That evening, Elon returned to the community center, slipping in unnoticed once again. He stood in the shadows, watching James carefully guide volunteers through tasks, his patient encouragement evident in every gesture. Elon felt a pang of admiration. This was leadership, quiet and genuine, far removed from the boardrooms and spotlights he knew so well. James eventually noticed Elon standing aside and approached with an easy smile. "Back again?" he asked lightly. "Careful, volunteering gets addictive." Elon smiled in return, somewhat sheepishly. "I think you might be right." James offered him a broom. "Best way to start is by doing." Without hesitation, Elon accepted, rolling up his sleeves and joining in the rhythm of meaningful labor. As he worked, a sense of peace filled him, rare and profound. Each sweep seemed to clear not just the floor but something deeper within himself. As they finished their tasks, Elon felt comfortable enough to ask James about his sister. "She sounds like she was a remarkable person," Elon ventured gently. James paused, looking thoughtful. "She was. Amanda had this way about her, like the world couldn't quite break her. Even when things were toughest, she kept believing in people." Elon absorbed that quietly. "And you're continuing her legacy." "Trying," James said softly. "But sometimes I wonder if it's enough." "It is," Elon replied firmly. "You're creating hope. That's something no machine can do." James nodded slowly, visibly moved. "Thanks. I needed to hear that." That night, Elon returned home physically tired but emotionally revitalized. He felt a sense of clarity he'd been missing for years. Sitting alone in his quiet study, he drafted another note. "Real change isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers." Days later, James arrived at the community center to find an unexpected surprise. Boxes of supplies, equipment, food, clothing, and books were neatly stacked outside, waiting. Volunteers stood around in amazement, unsure how to react. James picked up a small card tucked into one box. It simply read, "To those who quietly build hope." James smiled gently, feeling Amanda's presence stronger than ever. He had no idea who had sent these gifts, nor did he need to know. It was enough that kindness existed, quiet yet powerful, echoing into every corner of the room. Miles away, Elon stood by his window, looking out at the mountains bathed in moonlight. He felt lighter, freer. He realized he'd been chasing innovation for years, but it took one man's quiet, steady compassion to remind him why. In the days that followed, Elon began subtly changing how he interacted with the world, less concerned about legacy through technology, and more focused on the quiet acts that truly resonated with people. He didn't know yet where this new path would lead him, but he knew one thing for certain. It was the quietest voices that sometimes made the loudest echoes. As weeks passed, Elon found himself drawn deeper into the quiet transformation he'd begun. The stark contrast to his usual life of spotlight and spectacle was not only refreshing but deeply satisfying. He continued to visit the community center, participating quietly, blending seamlessly with the volunteers who had come to see him simply as another pair of hands, another willing heart. One evening, as Elon sorted canned goods in the pantry, he overheard a hushed conversation. James was speaking softly with a woman, her voice strained with exhaustion but resilient. "We're short on food again," she whispered urgently. "The demand keeps rising, James." I know, James said, a touch of worry edging into his calm demeanor. We'll find a way. We always do. Elon stepped back, unnoticed. That night, he contacted Emma with another quiet request. Within days, anonymous shipments of food arrived, steady and substantial, enough to ease the community center's pressing worries. Yet, Elon knew his actions, though important, were only addressing symptoms. He pondered deeply about what could truly empower the people he had come to admire and respect. It wasn't just resources they needed, it was opportunity, dignity, and hope. Realizing this, Elon began to conceptualize a new initiative, one built quietly but strongly, just like the people it would support. James, meanwhile, was bewildered but grateful. He had begun noticing a shift in the community. Volunteers who once carried tired resignation now moved with renewed vigor, inspired by the mysterious generosity that touched their lives without fanfare or recognition. Elon decided it was time to speak with James again, this time more candidly, though still preserving his anonymity. He found James sitting alone on the steps outside the center, looking up at the stars thoughtfully. "Mind if I join you?" Elon asked gently. James smiled warmly, shifting to make room. Always room for good company. They sat quietly for a few moments before Elon spoke again. "You know, your work here is creating ripples." James glanced at Elon curiously. "Ripples?" "The quiet changes," Elon elaborated. "The things you do without expecting anything in return, they spread farther than you realize." James chuckled softly, shaking his head. "I sometimes wonder if it matters at all." "It does," Elon replied with quiet conviction. "I've seen it. I've felt it. And now, I want to help it grow." James studied Elon carefully. "Why?" he asked genuinely. "Because," Elon paused, choosing his words carefully, "I once thought greatness was loud. But someone taught me that true greatness is quiet, humble, and infinitely more powerful." James nodded slowly, a deep understanding dawning on his face. "So, you're the one behind the anonymous gifts," he said, realization brightening his eyes. "Yes," Elon admitted gently. "But it's your quiet strength that inspired me." James leaned back, visibly moved. "Amanda used to say the world gets changed by those willing to listen to their hearts." Elon smiled faintly. She was right. Under the expansive Colorado sky, two men sat quietly, bonded by shared ideals and the profound, gentle impact of kindness. Neither fully grasped how far-reaching these ripples would become, nor how deeply they would alter lives, not just their own but countless others. Elon left that night knowing he had found something more significant than he had ever built before. Not a technology, not a product, but a purpose. Back home, in his private sanctuary, Elon wrote another note. "The quietest hearts create the deepest ripples." He placed it carefully next to the others, aware now more than ever that his life's most meaningful work was just beginning. Months transformed into a year, and Elon's quiet initiative blossomed quietly yet beautifully. Without media attention or flashy announcements, the community center thrived, empowered by resources, compassion, and quiet collaboration. What had begun as a modest act of kindness had evolved into a movement, subtle yet profound, reshaping the very fabric of the community. Elon continued to maintain his anonymity, though rumors inevitably circulated. Volunteers whispered of a silent benefactor whose identity remained hidden, fueling their imagination but also inspiring them to pay kindness forward, in ways large and small. James had fully embraced his role, now leading workshops on self-reliance and financial literacy. He was no longer merely distributing goods but instilling in the community the tools for lasting change. Every evening, he would look to the stars, quietly thanking Amanda for the enduring inspiration she left behind. One cool evening, as Elon worked quietly alongside the others, he felt an unmistakable sense of fulfillment. It wasn't from a successful launch or a soaring stock price, it was deeper, quieter, more human. James approached, handing Elon a cup of coffee, his eyes twinkling knowingly. "Still no regrets about leaving the spotlight behind for a while?" Elon smiled softly, shaking his head. Not one. It feels like I've finally built something that truly matters. James nodded thoughtfully. That's because you built it with your heart. As the night wound down, James took the stage briefly, addressing the volunteers with warmth. I want to thank each of you, he said sincerely, his voice steady. Kindness isn't always loud, but it always matters. Remember, every small act sends ripples we might never fully see. Later, Elon returned home, reflective. Sitting in his study, he penned a final note. Legacy is not about what you build, but who you lift. Closing the notebook, Elon reached for 2 books that had profoundly impacted him. He believed they could inspire others, too. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl, a powerful exploration of purpose and resilience amidst life's greatest adversities. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, an insightful guide to finding peace and fulfillment through mindfulness and presence. He decided to gift these books anonymously to the community center, with a simple note attached. May these stories help you find and follow your own quiet purpose. As he placed the books into a box, ready for delivery, Elon felt a deep sense of peace. He had rediscovered his core purpose, beyond wealth, beyond innovation, connecting genuinely with the lives of others. He knew he would eventually step back into his former life, but he would return changed, forever guided by the quiet wisdom he had learned. For now, he was content with the quiet ripples he had helped create, aware that these small acts, given freely and without expectation, would echo louder and longer than anything he had ever built before.